All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go4CEO channel. This is John the Bomb, your host. Building others means business. That's always the acronym. That's the way I feel about how we impact this business community. And my guy, Lewis Scott, is in the house. He's from eight-figure firm. He was the founder. He's also a managing partner of another phenomenal law firm. And we're going to learn some stuff today because this guy is really impacting his industry and doing some different things. So from scaling to operations to funding to all the things that really help an attorney firm and other firms. So you'll be listening up to some great stuff. So Lewis, hey, welcome to the Go4CEO channel, my man.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome, brother. So, hey, man, we want to start with an impact, right? So, eight-figure firm, you trademark that, you work with some great partners. What is the aspect that's really impacting the industry about what you're doing?
I think one of the things that we're doing that's different is that we are training people and teaching people that it's possible to create predictability in your law firm, which is a service-based business when you think about it, and create it in a way that you could step away and the law firm really operate on its own. And in the past, most lawyers believed that they had to live and die as a lawyer and live and die as a primary lawyer and never be able to step away, sell the business. And so what we're doing is we're creating an entire environment of lawyerpreneurs who are putting themselves in a position to be able to sell their law firm because it's so systematized and runs without them. And so that's what we're doing differently is we're creating, I would say hope, but also the pathway to predictability. And that to me is what brings peace of mind.
I love it. I love it. Look, I mean, there's so many businesses out there that unfortunately don't get sold, right? They don't know how to exit. They don't know where to go. They don't know what systems they should have. And that's why predictability and franchising can be such a great business model. So let's dive into it. I mean, obviously, you have this idea, right? And like most ideation, you're kind of putting a pen to paper, you're thinking about it, maybe putting a business plan together kind of thing. So tell us those first few times that you had this idea. Were you in a firm at that point, and how did you start to develop the idea, and who did you partner with, if at all?
I mean, one of the things about ideas is that there's so many of them, and many of us have ideas throughout the day, and we think to ourselves, "Well, that would be a great idea," but then we forget about it or we don't know how to execute. And so I made a part of like my daily life to write down ideas. If I woke up and I had a dream about something, I'd write it down. If I had an idea in the moment, I'd take my phone out and I'd write it down. And over the years, I always had this passion to be a speaker, to be an author, to be a consultant, to be a teacher. Actually, my first love was to be a teacher, but I realized they didn't make a lot of money. I wanted to be a teacher and a coach because I played baseball in college, but they didn't make enough money for me to like go into it. And so I always had this passion to do that, and I never knew how I would do it. And so as I was developing my own law firm and realizing that there were some commonalities between the what I would call the general business sector and the legal space, and I started connecting those dots and saying, if I just did this, this is the outcome. I realized that I had something that I could teach people. So when I
Mm.
got that idea, I tried to create the idea in a way that was easy for people to digest. And I wrote an ebook called The 9 Principles of Exponential Growth. So that was like the very first platform where I said, this is my concept. You're going to take these 9 principles, and if you do this, it's going to create some level of predictability. So that was like idea number one. And then once you have a good idea and people are kind of resonating with it, it's a matter of like maturing the idea and then creating a better idea from the idea. So from there, I wrote the 999 plan. So it's the 27 things that come out of those 9 principles. And then
Hmm.
from there, I wrote the book, The King of Growth, which was, how do you actually do the marketing, which develops the predictability that you want. And so it was just a matter of like, you take one little idea and you do the snowball effect and you implement one thing, and then you just keep adding to it and adding to it. And now we have an entire consulting business that revolves around that one initial idea, which was connecting the dots between business and the legal space.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Like, to be able to put those things together, right, and then implement into the marketplace. So, you know, fine, you write an ebook, but who knows about it? So let's dive into, okay, you've got the idea, you write the ebook, it starts to formulate a business model for you. What's those first 90 days, one or two clients? How are they starting to interact with you, and how are you picking them up?
This was the funny thing I think about business in general is everybody wants the grand slam. Everyone wants to start their business and in 90 days make $1 million, or in a year be like this overnight success. And I didn't take that approach. I actually took the approach of I'm gonna test this theories out. I'm gonna find a couple of people that I know needed consulting and that I trusted, and see if they would hire me. And so the first thing I did was I actually did a webinar. So once I had written the 9 principles of exponential growth, I did a webinar. And in that webinar, I offered to do consulting for people. And there were 14 people in there. I think 8 of them were current law firm employees who were not going to start a business. So there were 6 people that were like actual possible clients. And one of those people actually called me after the fact and was like, "Hey, I'd be interested in consulting. How much is it?" At the time I was like, $500 an hour. I thought in the terms of like a lawyer, like I'll do it by, for my hourly rate. And so that happened within the first 30 days. It took me another 90 days to get my second client. And then it took me another 60 days to get my third client. So essentially in about probably 6 months, I only got 3 clients. But the principles were working, and I was really trying to develop a clear path for them to create, a lot of predictability in their business, which they were loving, because before they felt lost. That created a kind of word of mouth. And 1 year later, we had almost 60 clients after that happened. And so that was kind of like the genesis of the consulting space.
All right. So look, I picked up on a couple things there. You said, hey, you took that slow growth mentality, right? Meaning like that you actually cherished the first client that you had, made
Yes.
sure that they succeeded and became a formula to then succeed with other clients. So tell us a little bit about the KPIs, those key performing indicators that you started to measure, because obviously you're consulting, right? So, and you're in the same space, and okay, well, what are you doing different than I'm not doing, right? They're
Yeah.
obviously coming to you. So take us through that journey of did you start to develop, I guess, protocols of how you were going to go through? I know lawyers think linearly, right? So
Yeah.
it's a fun mindset to have. So how are you taking them through this journey?
So everything was happening kind of, organically, because we were listening to the customer, we were listening to the client, and they were telling us, if you ask the client, they'll tell you. In a service-based business, they will tell you what they want and need. And I actually learned this from a friend of mine who says, stop telling the client what they need and start asking them what they want. And
Mm,
then figure out a way to deliver what they want. And so we started asking them, what do you want? And they said, well, we want a program that allows us to see the 12-month curriculum. So we went and built a 12-month curriculum. And they said, we want a program to develop our leaders. So we built a leadership academy, and now we have a 36-week leadership academy where over almost 500 people have gone through. And then they said, well, we need to train our teams. We don't know how to train our teams. So we developed a team training academy, and we do it a bi-weekly, and over 150 people join the team training on a bi-weekly basis. And we need second in command training. So we developed a management curriculum, and we just started listening to the client and started developing what they needed. And so that was step one to really attract the clientele that we wanted, was listening to them and fulfilling the desires that they had. But I think number two, and I didn't understand number two at the beginning. This is something that I learned probably a year, maybe a year and a half into the consulting space, is that when you work one-to-one with people, what they want more than anything is relationship and community. And
mm,
so if you want to grow your service-based business, I don't really care if you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, if you're a lawyer, if you're an insurance agent. If you get committed to that relationship and you get committed to building community with the people that you serve, you're going to have more people than if you don't. And it makes me think of like the best vendors in my life, whether it's the lawn guy or it's the plumber, the ones that like make an effort to get to know me, make an effort to get to know my family. They're the ones that are hardest to let go of. They're the ones that you want to stay with for a long time. And so I have some really amazing vendors, both through the law firm and through 8-figure firm, and also in my personal life. But every one of them has the same characteristic. They built relationship with me, and they built a community.
I love it. I love it. You're talking about an emotional impact there, right? Getting it to the heart. There's intangible and tangible, right? The tangible is obviously I can show you the process, but the intangible has been the things that you've, apparently mastered and sharing with. So I guess, transitioning a little bit to marketing,
Mhm.
I'm hearing that is part of your marketing, right? Is getting one client that truly is so enamored with what you've done that they're sharing with 6 to 10 people or 20 people, right? So tell us a little bit about how you started the marketing once that one client was established, and then was it all word of mouth? How did you approach the marketplace?
So originally it was primarily word of mouth, just because I didn't have any money to spend on it. And despite the fact that we had a very successful law firm, we did not spend any money from the law firm to build 8-figure firm. We wanted it to be a self-generating, self-sustaining business. So we self-funded it through the revenues being generated by people. And I have a program where I ask people to spend 25% of their revenues into marketing, because that's going to generate the most amount of momentum. And so as soon as I started generating revenue in year one, we generated $106,000 in revenue. I took $25,000 and immediately started doing marketing with that. So coupled with the 25% plus the word of mouth, that's how we started generating momentum in marketing. But I do think that defining your customer journey is really, really important. And that is asking the question, from the time that the person hears about you until the time the person becomes a client, and then hopefully and beyond, what is the experience that they're having? If you can really define that experience in a way that's intentional, you're going to get a lot of referrals. And that's what we found, is that gift that we send the client when they become a client, the relationship that we form when they become a client, that was so impactful in getting a referral and also in retaining the clients. And so for us, marketing was all about a holistic relational experience, not just from what we said and the messaging and where we put it, but also in what we delivered after they actually heard and responded to the message. And that created kind of the momentum that we needed at the beginning.
Nice, nice. So, there's traditional marketing, right? There's, online, there's word of mouth, there's network, marketing and direct marketing, all these types of things, right? So, what was the model that you used? Was it just direct sales? I mean, obviously with the consulting, it's one-on-one, like you said, but
Mhm.
did you start to develop, I guess, a grid or a model, or like a gold, platinum, series step up
Yeah.
type thing? What was
Yeah,
your process?
absolutely. So my model for marketing at the beginning, especially when you don't have a lot of money, is you want to do the things that are high ROI and low cost. We
Mhm.
always go towards the things that are high cost, low ROI. The first thing people want to think about when they think about marketing is, let me go spend money on paid ads, or let me go spend money on TV or radio. And it's like, that's really high cost for low ROI, because those things take a long time and a lot of branding and so forth. And so I asked myself the question, where can I find my client? And I knew immediately that I could find my client in conferences. I knew immediately that I could find my client on certain platforms on social media, like Facebook groups and so forth. And I knew that I could find my client in certain networking opportunities. And so I immediately started attacking those places, and we started geofencing different networking events. So like the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association, we would put a geofence around that, and we would spend money on social media marketing. I started sending out books. I was sending out my book on marketing. I would send out 300 copies of the book every single month to prospective clients. And then I started asking, this is a part that people miss. If you want a referral, ask for it. Don't expect people to just be like so enamored by you that they just like willingly, pull out their cell phone. Ask for a referral. I actually learned that from my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law worked for Tom James, and Tom James is a clothing company, and they do suits and so forth. Did this suit jacket for me. But the first time she met me, even though she's my sister-in-law, the question she asked me at the end was the one that caught me off guard. She says, "Do you know anybody who would look amazing in our outfits?" And I was like, I don't know if they can afford it. That's what my initial thought. And she said, I didn't ask you if you think that they can afford it. I just asked you, do you know anybody who would look amazing in our suits?
Mhm.
She's like, pull out your cell phone and give me. Now, she was probably more forceful than she is with the general clients, because I'm her sister, she's my sister-in-law. And so I pulled out my phone and I gave her 5 names. And to my surprise, all 5 of them bought suits from her. And I said, if I just take that same approach for my clients, how much more impactful can I be in my referrals? And you know what I found out? It works. Just ask for the referral.
As for the referral, yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, right? Fundamentally, following up on opportunities and asking for referrals are two genuine ways of organically growing your business, right? So, Go for CEO community, those last 3 minutes there, fundamentally, I would repeat that and ingrain that in my brain and share, what Lewis Scott just shared with you. So, um, I was going to go to a place where we talk about scaling and understanding operations, right? In the beginning parts of a business,
Mhm.
Especially if you're an intrapreneur, which is what I would deem you, right? I mean, you were a mindset of a business owner inside of a firm, and you're a partner there. But then you start this other business, right? So you're kind of intrapreneur, entrepreneur side of things. What are some of the things that you did to, I guess, give you some operational guidance? Were you using already similar tools than your current firm was using?
Mhm.
Were you already developing your own infrastructure? How did you approach that piece of the puzzle?
So I developed my own operational infrastructure from reading. I've read over 300 books cover to cover, some of them multiple times, 300 titles, individual titles. And I've read some of them multiple times. And then I also read this. There's this app called Blinklist, and on that app you can read a book in 20 minutes. I've read about 300 of those. So I take a lot of my ideas from that. You take the best from the supermarket and then you put it together and it makes a delicious meal. And that's what I did in my operational system. I was the managing partner of another firm. So when we launched Bader Scott, my business partner and I, and we launched it, I created an operational system from what I learned as a partner of another firm, and then what I learned in my 15 years of business. And so pretty much everything that was working in the law firm operationally, I developed myself. In fact, the first year of business, working with my business partner, I wrote a 220-page PowerPoint presentation on how we would operate our firm if our firm was a $20 million business. At the time, we were a $3.5, $4, $5 million business, much smaller. And I laid it out there, and now we're significantly bigger than $20 million. But I took that same infrastructure and I put it into 8-figure firm. And it was an infrastructure that allowed for communication upwards and downwards, that allowed for accountability, that allowed for project management to be completed. And the entire system was dependent on becoming super clear on what you were trying to achieve, and then figuring out who you needed to achieve it, and then holding people accountable to making sure that it was achieved.
I love it. I love it. No, there's a lot of foundational things that you just shared, right? And taking from the experience that you had, also using that, a lot of Go4CEO community, you're looking to become the CEO of your own life, number one, and the CEO of a company. And it could be from a founder perspective, from taking over a company, from acquiring it, those types of aspects, and learning from what you did. And guys like Lewis Scott and so, their consulting firms is a huge thing. So tell us a little bit about once you start making some money, all right, it starts to come in, you got that third, like you said, client, you got, I think you said 40, 60 clients in the first year. How are you managing the cash flow, right? I'm a big financial guy in commercial lending space, and we tend to see businesses that, may show a big figure up front, right? Just ran into one that did about 15 million in business, and their EBITDA, right? Their net income was around 11,000.
That's
So
not good.
that's not a good thing, right? So tell us about what your experience has been going from entrepreneur, and then obviously being a managing partner, so a co-partner, and then starting this brand. What has been your experience about cash flow? How do you? I heard that 25% for marketing, but what are you thinking are the most important things that, especially when in that first 3 years of business?
So one of the things that I teach the lawyers that I work with in service-based businesses, we actually work with tax accounting firms as well. That was just by organically. Some people, they were like, I don't care that you coach lawyers, come coach us, and so we took them on. But one of the things that I always teach is that your profitability is really dependent on the intention that you have for your business. So strong profitability doesn't necessarily mean that you have a good business. And weak profitability doesn't necessarily mean that you have a bad business. Amazon was not profitable for the first 7 years. Tesla was not profitable for the first 10 years, right? Nobody would say that those were bad businesses. They were just going through a season of growth in which they decided to intentionally invest in their business. The problem with low profitability is when you don't intend that to happen. That's where it becomes a problem. It's like, I want to make profit, but somehow I can't make it. That becomes a problem. And so what I teach is, number one is identify your intention. What is the intention that you have for the season of your business? Are you in high profitability mode, which means you may be in slower growth mode, or are you in high scale mode? If you're in high scale mode, you may have to drop your profitability lower. So when I think about cash flow, whether it's the law firm or a 8-figure firm consulting, what I'm asking myself is, what is our intention for this year, for this next 3 years, for this next 5 years? Is it to scale up, or is it to stabilize, or is it to create high profitability? So that's the first question that I ask. But I have a formula that I teach people. It's called 37, 25, 10 and TOB. And it's really a range, but it just sounds cooler to say it the way that I just said it. And instead of saying a range of things, but the range is, you want to keep in a payroll between 37 and 42%. You want to keep marketing between, 23 and 28%. You want to keep operations between 8 and 15%. And then the rest of it is your total owner's benefit, what you derive from the business. It needs to be between 20 and 28%. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to piece all of the puzzles pieces together. And that's payroll, that's marketing, that's operations, in a way that generates 20 to 28% profitability for you, or TOB for you. So when I teach people, it's, if you're spending a lot of money in payroll, you better make sure that your operations is not too high, because if it is, then you won't have money for marketing and it'll be hard for you to generate revenue. Or if you're spending too much on marketing, you may not deliver the right service because you don't have enough money for payroll. So figuring out the balance, and the thing about building a business and scaling is that it's a seesaw. It's like one season you have a lot of payroll and not a lot of expenditures, and then one season you have a lot of expenditures and your payroll's lower. The key is, as you're seesawing, making sure that you take home enough to support yourself and live through that roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship. And so that's what we teach. And the way that we manage the cash flow in 8-Figure Firm was in that same way. We wanted to make sure payroll was around 40%, that marketing was around 25%, that operations was about 10 to 12%. And then we were turning anywhere between a 20 and 25% profit margin because of that ratio analysis.
All right. No, I love that. I'm going to have to take that formula and find an acronym for it, since I'm John the Bomb, building others
Okay.
in business. I love acronyms. And that's such a cool way to think about the way that you formalize it. I would say one of the things that came to mind as you're talking about that is strategically making sure that, then how do you bring in talent, right? It sounds like the 8-Figure Firm, right, was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that you had this idea and you put and implemented. So over the last few years, what have you done to attract talent? Because there's a lot of issues going on in America and around the world, right? And how do we develop the talent so that you don't only become the business, right? Which is
Right.
what you teach, right? Is to create a business. Don't work in your business, work on your business, so that you can have that a little bit of freedom, right? And you could be involved and roll up your sleeves and everything. But how do you attract the talent as you've got this formula now that you've established on the financial end and cash flow? What are some of the talent gaps and things that you've been able to identify?
So, we've developed a hiring funnel as part of this, because this is part of what we teach people. But what I really believe is, when you are in the business of, you said building people who build businesses, right? When you're in the business of building people and loving people, it creates a magnetic attraction to you. And I've never had difficulty finding people, because I spend so much time trying to invest in the people that I have. And when you do that, I believe the universe rewards you with more people who want to work for you. One of the things that I tell my team, between the two businesses, we're over 200 employees. And one of the things that I tell my team is that the depth of your human experience will be measured by the commitment that you make to the relationships in your life. That's going to be how your life is going to be measured. That's how deep your life is going to be measured. And so I spend a tremendous amount of time with our executive team, our lawyers, our leadership team on 8-Figure Firm, pouring into them, loving them, showing them grace when mistakes are made, teaching them, helping them fulfill their life goals and dreams. And when that happens, they then refer more people into the business. And when they refer people into the business, they refer people in the business that are also going to love that type of experience. And so what it results in is people that have been here 5, 6, 7 years and just working, not to fulfill our dreams, but to meet their needs and their dreams through the dream and through the vision of the business. And so I think the first thing is the universal principle of that attraction, right? If you give into the world and you love people in the world, people will give back to you and will love you back. And relationships are hard, by the way. So this is not to say that it's easy. It's just that if you do this, you're going to have a lot of great people. But setting up a funnel where you can let people know the type of culture that you're going to have in your business. I didn't have anybody when I started 8-Figure Firm. There was 0 clients. It was just me, literally just me. And now to have, 3 consultants on the team is incredible, and 3 plus me. just in 3 years is absolutely incredible. And it's a testimony to when you love people, people will love you back. When you show them that they can fulfill their dreams, they'll want to fulfill your dreams. And so that creates a symbiotic, relationship where we're in it together and we're in it for the same reason, which is to make an impact in this world. So having a defined hiring funnel and then actually caring about people will result in having really great team members.
That's phenomenal. I was coming to mind a gentleman named Ed Milet. He talks about having a vision so big that you can plug people into, right?
Yes.
That's another aspect of that. It's interesting. I'm writing a book, and I shared with you, the part where I talk about being an only child, right? So I'm an only child. I grew up that way, but you just defined, right, why some people miss the boat on relationships and why they're not feeling fulfilled because they're not investing in others, right? They're not putting the time. So there's definitely a lot of tools and things like that. I would say even just one thing, Go4CEO community. I don't know if I've ever said this on one of my interviews, but like even just a text message every couple months that is sincere, that is about the thing that they told you about 2 months ago, right? If I'm talking to Lewis as an example, he tells me maybe, he had this experience of going to Grand Canyon. I'm just making up a story here. But then I text him 2 months later, man, I hope you still have great memories about that Grand Canyon experience. It lights him up because he
Yes.
sees the text message that that cared about something that he did, right? So pretty awesome stuff. I love that you're really implementing that within the space of what you're doing in business. So we tend to end our interviews with CEO, right? So it's client experience, engagement, and operational excellence. And from a high level, Lewis, I'd love to ask you, so you leave our community with this vision of what you guys do that's so impactful. So client experience, from the first client that you've had now to the hundreds of clients that you have, the three other consultants along with yourself, what is high level that you expect for a eight-figure firm to deliver on client experience?
I expect them to deliver an experience that makes the other person feel like they're part of a true community where we are just as invested in their success as they are in their success. And I think that too often we provide a service to receive money instead of providing a service to see the outcome fulfilled in the life of the person we're serving. And
Mhm.
so the client experience that you get with us is that you will receive an experience where we are just as invested and your outcome is invested. And I like to tell a story about this. We had a client who was celebrating a 10-year anniversary of their law firm, and they needed to deliver a really great event with excellence. We flew one of our consultants to their office in New York to make sure that it went off without any issues. We are invested in their success, and that's the experience that I want them to receive.
Phenomenal stuff. So engagement lends itself to an experience, right? But I'm talking about engagement now with E, as far as the people that maybe you buy stuff from, right? Your vendors, the clients obviously is one of them. Your employees, your consultants, other surrounding networks that you have. So tell me about why people want to engage with a figure firm and you, Lewis, as far as engagement.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the reason that people want to engage with our business is because we are kind, because we are caring. And I think that when you develop a reputation of being authentic,
Mhm.
vulnerable, transparent, and kind, I think that it continues to create that magnetism that you want towards your life. And so that's what we find is that we are a magnetic organization because we are kind. In fact, after one of our conferences, we host a conference 3 times a year. And after every conference, one of the greatest things that we see, or the most common thing that we see on our surveys is, wow, how incredible was your staff at that conference? Like every person was invested. They were shaking hands, kissing babies, listening to them, eating with our staff. They don't eat on their own. They eat with the clients. We engage with the clients. In fact, this is something I don't know if I'll ever have to change, especially as we continue to grow. But when we have events, even if we have 120, 150 people, I don't sit backstage waiting for my time to talk. I sit in the audience with everyone else. And so that is how we engage, is we become super vulnerable, super transparent, and we make it a true community, and we deliver it with kindness. And that makes all the difference.
Boom. Hey, building others means business. All right. I love it. I love it. So, all right. Last one is operational excellence. And you touched on a couple things that you've been able to master, the formula on your cash flow side of things. And those are all operational, significant things to your business. So tell us high level, I guess, maybe some softwares that you're using, some things that you've really been able to. I know some people like I think it's ERM and some other operational tools that they use. What are some things that you're using that has really impacted your business?
Well, I mean, we use two primary tools. One's a CRM tool, which is Keep, and Keep allows us to keep track of clients, be in constant contact with them through text messaging. We use MailChimp a lot. We send a lot of emails. So if you ever get on our subscription list, you're going to get 40 emails a month, because we believe in delivering high value. I heard Alex Hormozy talk about how Gary Vee says jab, 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 and then ask. And he says, no, you jab, jab, jab until they ask. And so we are in the constant mode of just delivering more and more and more and more until people start gravitating towards us. So having a really great, MailChimp program where we can actually continue to deliver that email campaign has been really impactful for us. And then we use Monday.com, which is a project management software. It allows us to keep track of our events and some of the other things that we're doing with clients. So those are three things that we use that I think have been really instrumental for us. And the most important part is just do everything with intentionality and make sure that you're in constant improvement mode. And if you do that, you'll deliver excellence.
Wow, what an impact, man. Thanks so much for, coming out to the Go4CEO channel. We met in an interesting way. I've not had a booker, reach out to the Go4CEO channel, but you're the first one. And also you broke the ceiling. We were at 25 million of revenue and you're at 40 million of revenue. All combined, I believe you said, right, with everything that you're doing. So impactful stuff. So Louis, leave the audience with a little, like, where can they get a hold of you? If there's a firm out there that happens to run, across this message, we're going to be on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social audio apps, all those types of things, and podcasts. How do they get a hold of you, and where do you want to direct them to get more information?
Absolutely. They can find me on my personal website, LuisScottjr.com. So LuisScottjr.com. And you can find information about 8-Figure Firm, my podcast, my books, and booking me for speaking or for consulting there.
I love it. Well, hey, Go4CEO channel, I hope you've enjoyed this message. And by the way, I didn't say it at the beginning, but subscribe to the channel. Come on, let's get to 1,000 subscribers, around all the social media space. I believe we have around 10,000, followers and engagers, right? We're trying to build this community because it's small to medium-sized business owners like this, right, that are really impacting the world, right? And the message that Louis Scott just shared. So, hey, let's go for CEO. Thanks so much, Louis, for being a part of the podcast.